99 and gleefully uncensored. Mel Brooks just lobbed a truth grenade at Hollywood. The 6 performers who nearly drove him over the edge, yet somehow helped mint his greatest laughs. He swears it isn't hate in the mortal sense, more like the maddening friction that sparks lightning. But the stories behind his list have leaked from memoir pages, Blu-ray commentaries, and a brand new podcast cameo. Tonight, we're slicing through half a century of on-set chaos, ruined takes, late entrances, studio fistfights, even a mock boxing challenge, to find out why Brooks, the king of joyful anarchy, still winces at these memories, and why he thanks every culprit in the same breath. Buckle up. The ride starts now. Dom exploded onto Brooks' radar like a runaway firework. An explosion of mirth. Mel later sighed, equal parts fond and frazzled. Even on quiet rehearsal days, DeLuise's laugh could rattle the lamps. Once the camera rolled, it became a 6-alarm emergency. Crew veterans swear entire afternoons on history of the world. Part 1 vanished, while Dom gasped for breath. Tears streaming, the slate clacking, take 19. A recent viral clip shows raw dailies of DeLuise in priest robes, wheezing so hard the boom mic dips into frame. Fans call it the DeLuise delay, and the tag sits north of 5 million loops. Brooks tried every tactic, shooting DeLuise's coverage last, aiming the camera away from other cast members, even swapping punchlines mid-scene so Dom wouldn't see them coming. Nothing helped. Yet when a usable take finally slipped through the giggles, it was pure gold. So good that Brooks built his informal schedule rule. Add 1 extra day per DeLuise scene. No wonder he grumbles, half smiling, that he hated directing the man who kept the whole set in stitches. But that wasn't the worst timekeeper he ever faced. Hackman turned a single cameo, the blind hermit in Young Frankenstein, into a master class in seriousness. He requested full table reads, precise lighting diagrams, even extra soup bowls to gauge splash angles for the slapstick gag. The payoff? An improvised farewell. "I was gonna make espresso," that detonated laughter so violently the footage had to fade out because the entire crew cracked up. The ad-lib lives on in trivia lists and anniversary retrospectives. Brooks loved the moment and quietly vowed never to endure that level of rigidity again. As he later quipped, Gene wanted jazz charts written in stone. Seriousness had stalled comedy long enough. The next storm in Brooks' life blew in with arguments rather than spreadsheets. Madeline Kahn glided on screen like silk, yet behind the lens she wielded a scalpel. She dissected every comma, insisted on alternate rhythms, and rewritten jokes appeared daily in the margins of her personal script, pages recently auctioned with red ink notes such as "Try breathy half-beat before punch." Rehearsal was sacred to her, but punctuality was negotiable. Crews coined the phrase "Kahn o'clock" to describe the limbo between call time and her unhurried arrival. Chiffon scarf floating, smile serene. Brooks compared the experience to wrestling a cat in a rainstorm, admitting she was usually right, but always exhausting. Once cameras rolled, the results were so sharp and they made editing painless, provided Brooks let her chase perfection. And he often did, because each battle raised the scene's voltage. Still, after another marathon of retakes on Young Frankenstein, he was heard muttering, "She'll be the death of me," only to add, "But what a way to go." Next up, though, came an actor whose intensity felt less like silk and more like steel. Richard Pryor co-wrote Blazing Saddles with Brooks, peppering the script with jagged truths about American racism. Brooks begged to cast him as Sheriff Bart, but Warner Brothers flat out refused. The comedian's erratic reputation and near overdoses made insurers balk. Pryor shrugged, then pushed Brooks to move ahead anyway, and helped pick Cleavon Little for the role. In sessions Brooks later described as waiting for lightning, Pryor could blaze through 20 punchlines in 5 minutes or vanish for hours into silent thought. When he reappeared, scribbled pages crackled with electricity that still lights up late-night screenings. Brooks counts losing Pryor as lead actor among his lifelong regrets, yet insists the film's teeth come directly from Pryor's pen. Collaboration finished, but the ache lingered until one final name on the list, proved collaboration could be simultaneously war and marriage. Cloris Leachman. If DeLuise broke character and Kahn rewrote it, Leachman interrogated it. She famously challenged Brooks to a playful boxing match after he cut her from the Broadway Young Frankenstein. Proof that even at 81, she was ready to fight for her choices. On film sets, she wanted every beat justified. Why did Frau Blücher glare here? Why did Nurse Diesel tilt her head there? Brooks's answers triggered new questions until, as he said later, I felt like I was defending a PhD thesis on comedy, yet her instinct was razor true. Her glacial stare and clipped line readings became immortal shorthand for delicious menace. Exhausting, absolutely, but every scene she touched turned unforgettable, and Brooks kept calling her back, till an even riskier genius nearly slipped away forever. Anne Bancroft was Brooks's partner in life, equal in talent, and utterly immune to his directorial authority. On To Be or Not to Be, she debated blocking, questioned punchlines, and once scrawled, "Try again, Mel," across a rehearsal page before handing it back with a grin. Crew members dubbed their on-set sparring the bedroom blitz, knowing tea and tenderness awaited them at home. Actor Tim Matheson later recalled the rap party moment when Brooks thanked him for not sleeping with my wife, an in-joke that sent the room howling and revealed how comfortably the couple blended rivalry and affection. Brooks admits she was the only actor whose single raised eyebrow could rewrite his day. "She made me second-guess every note," he says, then adds, "and every film is better because of it." With that confession, his list ends. But the message rings louder than the laughs. Chaos, it turns out, was Brooks's secret studio. DeLuise's unstoppable giggles, Kahn's microscopic precision, Hackman's carved-in granite discipline, Leachman's Socratic drilling, Pryor's raw voltage, Bancroft's fearless honesty. Every burst of friction sharpened the jokes until sparks became screen history. Those sparks lit the path for every modern spoof, every late-night punchline, every comedy writer who keeps a "What would Mel do?" sticky note beside the keyboard. The next time you quote Blazing Saddles or hum Putting on the Ritz, remember the off-camera firefights that forged those moments. Fights measured not in bruises, but in brilliance. Think about it. Without Dom's crack-up cascades, half the crew might never have survived a 14-hour day with a smile. Without Madeline's surgical rewrites, entire scenes would have landed a half-beat flat. Hackman's rigid intensity proved that a single dead-serious cameo can anchor a hurricane of slapstick, while Leachman's endless why questions reminded everyone that comedy still needs truth under the joke. Pryor's pen sliced past studio timidity, and Bancroft's uncompromising candor forced her husband to raise his own bar or risk being upstaged in his own movie. In other words, Brooks' so-called nightmares were really guardian angels in disguise. Impossible collaborators who yanked each gag higher, riskier, louder. That's why the films feel alive decades later. They were born in the heat of disagreement, cooled in the edit bay, and released with a ring of competing viewpoints still echoing inside every frame. Comedy ages fast, conflict keeps it fresh. So which impossible star do you think gifted Brooks the biggest miracle? Was it DeLuise's infectious chaos, Kahn's relentless polish, Hackman's iron focus, Leachman's intellectual jousting, Pryor's razor-edged honesty, or Bancroft's loving but lethal feedback? Tell us below. Then hit like, smash subscribe, and keep an eye on this channel, because the king of parody still has secrets, Hollywood still hides stories, and our next deep dive might change the way you watch your favorite classics forever.